Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about the IoT and I will show you how easy it is in the end. So let's dive into it. But before, make sure to scan the QR code if you have any question, and I will answer them by the end of the talk. So I am Robin, business analyst, expert in point of sale on IoT. And before I was in the post-R&D team. So today, what we will discuss about is why do you need an IoT and what's an IoT, the network limitation linked to the IoT, the difference between the virtual and the physical IoT, and the tips and best practice you have to know in order to make something clean. So let's go. So before we start, we will take in consideration the simple use case. We will just print something on your PC without Odoo. So basically, when you want to print something, you just open your PDF with a PDF reader, and then you go and print, and it prints the page. Easy. But how do you do it with Odoo? Well, in fact, if you just go to, for example, the serial order and go to the print button and print the PDF code, then you will only be able to download the PDF. And this is not really what you want. And this is why we will need the IoT later. So why can't you do this? It's because you have to understand that Odoo is not installed on your computer. It's somewhere in Odoo servers, and you have to contact it. So in one side, we have the client, which is the browser that will allows you to contact Odoo. And on the other side, we have the server that will perform the actions, like doing the reports and make you able to download it, or later you will see allows you the printing. So the client is responsible of doing requests to the browser. So for example, I am on the browser and I say, okay, server, print me something. The server will take the request and make a response based on it. It will say, okay, I have something to do. I will start making the report. Then it will say, okay, I have the report. Now I will send it back to you. And the client take the response of that, and it will, in this case, download the PDF. It will always be the same way. Client requests something, the server processes it, the server responds, and the client receives the answer. But in fact, this is not what you want. Well, you want the server to print it for you. So we need an IoT. And how will it work? It will almost be the same. So you have the client. The client will say, okay, server, I need the report. The Odoo server will exactly do the same. It will make the report, but it will say, okay, the client asked me to print something, but I'm not able to do it myself. So I will ask someone who can do it for me. And it's where the IoT comes into account. The IoT will say, okay, I cannot print it myself, but I will let the printer connected to me do it. The printer will print, and it will go back to the IoT and say, okay, it's printed. You can tell it to the server. The server will say, okay, I have the response from the IoT. It will go back to the client, and the client say, okay, the page is printed. It's as simple as that. So client contact server contact the IoT contact the printer, and it's doing the exact opposite way. Printer contact the IoT, says okay, IoT says okay to the server, and the server says okay to the client. So in the end, what's the IoT doing? Well, it's just the bridge between the devices and the Odoo database. It's a very small computer. It's a Raspberry Pi. And you have to know that you cannot integrate every devices with the IoT. It needs integration, and it's done by the R&D team. So now so how it works for the backend, but you will see that in the point of sale, in the front end, it's a bit different. Here, we'll take advantage of the network, but let's see first device, the very basic one, without any IoT. In, uh, in Odoo, we have few devices that can contact the client directly with the network. It's the case, for example, of the EPOS printers. It's printers that you can connect to the Wi-Fi, and they will be able to print tickets, VAT tickets for you. So basically, it will almost be the same uh, as the server could do. So the client will ask the printer to print something. The printer will say, OK, I can do it for you. It prints and says back to the client, OK, it's printed, and it's done. But now it's a bit more complicated. With the IoT, it's almost the same as the server, but we won't contact the server. The client will say, OK, I need you to, for example, do something with a device which is not direct, like, for example, payment terminals or printers that are not EPOS. Let's say that you want to print something with a non-EPOS printer. You will say to the IoT, OK, I need something to be printed. The IoT will say, OK, I can print it for you. It will go to the printer will print it, says back to the IoT, I printed it, and then it will go back to the client and say, OK, everything is done, and you can keep going. For the server, it will still do a few things according to the POS, but for this specific use case, we don't need it. So very important principle of the IoT is the network. As I showed you before, the IoT was on the same network as your PC. So the client there can contact this IoT because it's on the same network. It can also contact the payment terminals or the printers. But if I have a second network with another computer and another Epson printer, let's say, this Epson printer will be able to contact the computer, but this computer won't be able to contact this device. And this is really something important because most of the time, most of the issue comes from the networks. So make sure that every time you use the IoT, you're on the same network. OK, now we know what's the purpose of the IoT. So basically linking devices to the database. But when do you need it? Well, first, obviously, when a device cannot be directly contacted to, like the Epson can do it, but the rest can't do. Payment terminals, black box, scales, they can't do it. But there is other use case for the IoT. It's the automation. In Odoo, you can automate few stuff like printers. Basically, it's what I took as an example. You could just, instead of downloading the file, open your PDF reader, print it. You could just print from the backend view, and it will print the report for you. It will also detect all the printers on the same network. For the payment terminals, you have two ways to do it within Odoo. Either you don't connect the payment terminals to Odoo, and so every time you will make a payment in the point of sale, you will have to take the payment terminals, type the amount, and then it will be sent to the provider you use, and then you will have to validate in the POS. But if you link the terminals to the point of sale, and to Odoo, of course, then every time you will say, OK, I want this order to be paid, it will be sent directly to a terminal with the correct amount, and you will just have to put the card and everything is done. And it will obviously send back the payment status to Odoo. For the scales, it will be the same. So if you have to wait something, you could either do it manually, so put it on the scales, write the amount on the point of sale, and validate. But you could also say, OK, I want to print something, click on the product, put your product on the scales, and the scales will directly send to Odoo the information of the waste. OK, so now we have, you have to know that we have two types of IoT. One physical, it's the one I mainly talked before, and one virtual. The physical one is, as I told you, a Raspberry Pi, so it's a microcomputer which allows us to run Odoo code. And there is the Virtual IoT. This one is only running on Windows, and it's starting from version 16. And it's for services that run in the background of your PC. Okay, so when to use the Virtual IoT? So basically, the Virtual IoT was made for one client running on the same computer where the Virtual IoT is running. So there you can see that I have my computer with my client running Odoo. So this client is contacting the server, and I have on the same computer my Virtual IoT. Linked to that computer, I have several devices. It could be black box, scales, anything, almost anything. There is few restriction, and like this it will work. But let's say that you want another computer contacting this specific IoT. You will face some issues like firewall issues and, well, technical issues mainly, and you won't be able to contact them. In fact, it's possible if you can manage to tackle them, but it could take time, and I wouldn't suggest you to use the Virtual IoT in this case. What you can do, the first case would be just to do the same setup and just buy a new device, or you could use the Physical IoT. So the Physical IoT will allow you to bypass this limitation, and you will be able to have several laptops, tablets, computer, smartphone, contacting one IoT, and this IoT will be able to contact several devices as well. So scales, printers, payment terminals. So in the end, when to use the Physical IoT? Well, every time you will have multiple devices contacting the same multiple devices, or if you want to use the Virtual IoT, it's only recommended to be used by a client running on the same computer. Okay, so now we know how to use the IoT. When to use it? Well, it will depend, of course, of the device, but it could depend of some other case, like, for example, the number of transactions. Let's remember that for the payment terminals, we could automate this, but you really need this. If you only make 10 payments payments with the payment terminals a day, is it really useful to plug everything? And by the subscription, it's up to you. It can also minimize the encoding errors, because if it's not connected, you have to type it yourself, and you could type, for example, 100 instead of 10, and well, it could lead to some accounting issue and stuff like that. But you could also check for the frequency of the process you would do. Like, if you know that you have to print a lot of reports, then you could take the IoT just for this. Okay, now how many IoT do I need? Well, it will depend first of the physical location. Imagine that you have one shop in Liège and one shop in Brussels, then you will need, of course, two IoTs, because they won't be on the same network. And so, talking about networks, if you could be on the same networks, on the same location, but with two different networks, like you have a main network and a guest network, or you are just in the same location, but it's a very big one and you need two networks. So for this, as I told you before, it's a limitation, and you have to make sure that you are in the same to contact each devices. There is also the physical hardware limitation by the proximity. Imagine that I have two post config, one on my left, one on my right, and it's like 10 meters, they are 10 meters away. You will need a very, very long cable to do it, and sometimes two IoTs or two virtual IoTs might be better than only taking one on a very long cable. As Ermin told you before, there is the number of ports. So the IoT is limited to 4 ports, and for your computer it will depend, but most of the time it's 2. So if you have many devices to connect, you might maybe need more IoTs. We also have some technical constraints. For example, every payment terminals need one IoT box. So if you have 2 payment terminals, then you need 2 IoTs. So now let's come to some tips on best practice. Before you plug the IoT, make sure that you have 1 subscription line per IoT. So if you have 3 IoT, you need 3 subscription lines. Why? Because it will generate SSL certificate. What's an SSL certificate? It's something that will allow you to make sure that the connection between your IoT and your client is secure. If you don't have this, you won't be able to contact your device from Odoo. Now let's go to the network config. So as I told you, always be on the same network, otherwise it won't work. Always encourage using Ethernet over Wi-Fi. It's way more stable and way more easy to set up. And you have to know that if you have firewalls, it may block the setup. So you have to make sure that every ports are open. And in some case, you might encounter some DNS issues. And for this, just use the Google DNS. It's settings in your browser, and you will be able to bypass the issues. OK. For me, it's over. I don't know if you have questions.
Talk. I have just one question for now. So, can I use IoT for operational data acquisition? For example, connect a production machine and read the current production quantity and push it directly into my database?
Well, for now it's not integrated, but you could make the integration for this. It's just a matter of coding it yourself or asking the PS Tech to do it for you.
Is the price of an IoT physical IoT box license is the same as a virtual one?
No, so the physical one is 20 euros per month, I would say, I think, or 20 or 25, and the virtual is free. But this is not why you should go for the virtual one all the time. Sometimes just go for the physical one.
When will Odoo get rid of IoT for direct link between machines like Shopify is doing?
For this, I don't know. We are making our best to get rid of this, but we still need it for now, so no idea.
Which Raspberry Pi do you recommend?
345. They are all working.
Are all printers supported?
No. So we recommend some printers, like for the EPOS, it's the TM30 EE, and for the non-EPOS, it's like TM20. It's the 2 recommended, but we support like some star printers. It's just if it's not written in the documentation, I would just suggest you to try it, and if it doesn't work, just get a new one.
Can I use an additional USB hub to increase the number of USB ports on my Raspberry Pi?
No, I wouldn't suggest it.
Why is it necessary to have one IoT box per payment terminal?
For this, I would suggest you to go to the post booth and check with the IoT team.
Thank you. Let me see if I found another question. Can we integrate the dispenser through an API with the IoT box?
What's the dispenser?
not exactly sure. So let's move to the next question. Is it possible to integrate a scale that weight heavy trucks in Odoo with the IoT box?
Yeah, and actually it was done for a client, so yes.
Thank you. Follow up to the first question, where do I go to start hacking and developing for my IoT box?
I didn't get it.
Like, what kind of specific development, how can I make a specific development with my IoT box to integrate another hardware?
Okay, so if you do it yourself, then I would suggest you to go to the IoT team. But if you want Odoo to do it, then you have to contact the salesperson, and he will redirect you to the PS Tech team, which will do the development for you.
Thank you. What is the price of an IoT box license?
20 per month, or 25. I don't remember. It's one of those.
Yeah, it's 20, indeed.
20, okay.
How can we protect the IoT in the network so not anyone can access it?
But if anyone can access it, then your device won't be able to access it. So, but if you mean everyone from outside, so for the security, it's quite good for now. But if you want more, as I told before, just go to the IoT team, and they are the one who could give you the best answer for this.
Thank you. Will all payments be automatically reconciled with POS sales at the end of the day?
No. So for this, you could make some accounting automation. I can't get the name again, but you can make some rules to reconcile, but it won't be like all of them won't be automatic. It can help, but no.
Does the virtual IoT needs a subscription?
Yes, so you need the 1 line of subscription, but this line will be free.
So my IoT box is recognized, my printer is recognized in iOS, but nothing's printed. Might it be a firewall problem?
Well, it might be a firewall problem, or it might be a certificate issues, or the DNS issue. So first, you have to check that you can see your IoT box in the IoT app. If you can do this, then you have to check if you can click on the link from the IoT app to access the IoT homepage. But this we can check after.
Thank you. Does the IoT box have serial ports?
No. No, you need adapters, and this is why for the black box, for example, it's a serial cable, and you have to get the adapter to plug it to the IoT.
Thank you. Can I use any Raspberry Pi, or should I purchase your specific IoT box?
No, so basically, you just need the model 3, 4, 5, and we have images that you can get on Odoo Nightly. So you just type Odoo Nightly IoT, you will find the page, and there you can get the images, and it's the images you have to put on the IoT, on the card.
Thank you. Could I use the IoT box in logistic to connect an instrument that measures article to Odoo instantly so that I can check the dimension of my articles in Odoo? If yes, are all machines compatible? Yeah. How do I know if it's compatible or not?
Okay, so we have a few devices in Odoo which are integrated with Bluetooth. So for the name, I would just go for the documentation because I can't remember them, but we have 3 of them which are compatible, and it allows you to measure stuff.
Thank you. How do you link a domain name to the IoT IP?
It's done with the certificate, so it's why you need subscription line. it will do it automatically for you.
Does the IoT Box support all of Odoo versions?
Well, I'm there for 5 years now, and as for me, yes. Well, before at least all the supported version, yes.
And we support version for 3 years. Okay, perfect. I think this is all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Roman.